The Lakers, Celtics, Bulls, and Warriors are four of the biggest franchises in the NBA and the biggest cities with the biggest fan bases. These four monstrous organizations combine for 48 championships, meaning that out of the 78 championships played in league history, they combined for 61.5% of them. That is mind-numbing to even think about. Aside from the San Antonio Spurs, the NBA has yet to see a dominant dynasty from a team lurking in the shadows under everyone's radar, and usually we see at least one of the Giants make it to the finals. This year could very well be the beginning of something different. Of the four teams left in the playoffs, both the OKC Thunder and Indiana Pacers are some of the smallest market NBA teams in the smallest cities, but have been the two biggest talks of this year's playoffs, with scorching hot superstars paving their way to glory. The Minnesota Timberwolves are kind of somewhere in the middle. The city hasn't seen a high amount of success in their professional sports, and especially the Timberwolves had become a laughingstock of the league until just a few seasons ago. And while we may still have one giant left in the dance, this really means something to millions of fans around the country. The fans who are yet to be represented on this big of a stage, the fans who don't always have the luxury of a championship-bound team, and the fans who will go to any lengths and bounds to support their very own, as it may be the only professional team that their entire state even claims. For many people in small towns and even small cities all around Oklahoma, Indiana, Minnesota, and even their neighboring states, this playoffs feels like their quiet voices are finally being heard. The world will finally know their names after many, many years of patiently waiting. Hello everyone, I'm Mason, and we're finally getting to see a small market rebellion in the NBA playoffs, and I'm just hoping that this can maybe be the spark that a lot of these cities and a lot of these fans need. Make sure to drop a like down below, subscribe. A lot of you guys that watch the videos are not subscribed, so it's free. Just saying. Growing up as a kid, I lived in the small states of Oklahoma, South Dakota, and now Iowa. And one thing that I've seen in common with all three of these states is the fans are so diehard for every one of their collegiate sports teams. All the big college teams in their states are so highly praised by the diehard fans. After their couple of years in college, it kind of just ends there. A great football player from the Oklahoma Sooners, once they are done with Oklahoma, then their careers unfold in the NFL, and you have to support your Sooner boys when they get there. The one exception to this rule has been the Oklahoma City Thunder, the one pro team in this state, and many states can relate to this, that if you only have one pro team in your state, and we also see this trend with states that don't even have a pro sports team, as they have to kind of support the neighboring state. That's why a lot of people that live in Iowa are Minnesota Vikings or Kansas City Chiefs fans, Minnesota Timberwolves fans, because it's one of their closest teams geographically. And when we talk about the small market teams not always having a voice, just to show you how much the big markets usually dominate sports, the 2025 NBA Western Conference Finals is the first since 1996 that does not feature a team from either Texas or California, two of the most populated states in the United States with the biggest markets. And obviously, if you live in California, you're used to the Lakers being very successful over the years. Most other people from other states can't exactly say the same. I mean, heck, even the Knicks that are a big market team just don't get that exact opportunity. And we've kind of seen this in the eyes of the media as well, with a guy like Shaquille O'Neal or the guys on TNT who may not even watch some of these smaller market teams until they are pushed out to the millions because they're finally put on the pedestal of national TV.
Who's doing it? You said Chauncey?
Chauncey's the coach, right?
Okay.
Portland. No.
Chauncey, he coaches Portland.
Who's the coach?
JB Bickerstaff.
Yeah, Bickerstaff. That's what I meant. Hey, you know, first of all, I don't watch Detroit. How about that, boo-boo? I don't watch him. So,
He didn't know who the coach of the Detroit Pistons was. He thought they had a below 500 record. As we saw, they were easily a playoff team, and they were one of the most upcoming surprising teams of the season. And because these teams don't have such huge fan bases, it's kind of their loyal fan base trying to fight against the millions of other fans of other fan bases that might not really like them. Outside of the small fan base of the Oklahoma City Thunder, most other fan bases hate them. They say they play dirty, they don't like Shea, whatever. Tyrese Halliburton for the Pacers was voted as the most overrated player in the NBA, which literally can't be true. In this playoffs, he's pretty much sticking a middle finger to every single person that said that about him, as the Pacers are 2 wins away from the finals. It's so hard to catch the national media attention, and it's so hard to catch the eyes of millions, and especially when the NBA does everything to just promote the biggest names to gain the most money as possible. Bronny James was a constant talk and got so many posts on ESPN, and then you'd have a guy like Cade Cunningham silently have like a 30-40 point triple-double, and not a single peep would be spoken about it. As we all know, the guys who have some of the quietest voices have some of the loudest games, and we have seen that this postseason. The Timberwolves with Anthony Edwards smacked the Lakers in a 5-game series and didn't even give them a chance to fight back. They took out the Warriors, although obviously Steph Curry was out. Those Timberwolves still steamrolled through them in 5 games, and Anthony Edwards has been showing us he is going to be one of the next faces of the NBA, and he's giving representation to a franchise that has not had much success at all. You look at Tyrese Halliburton. The guy went from having so many talks around his name saying he's overrated, and now Indiana fans absolutely adore him for what he's done this postseason. They haven't seen something worth this much hype since Paul George was there. The difference between the big cities versus the little guys is just look at their playoff crowds. I mean, look at Indiana, look at Oklahoma City. They have 2 of the best NBA playoff crowds, and it's not close. They have all the fans put on those shirts. These guys go all out. They're so loud, the roaring crowds, and just that alone can give you a lot better of a home court advantage. But the little guys being good does so much for the league when they can finally reach out to new fans who may not have been keeping up before. I mean, if a guy lives in North Carolina and he doesn't watch a lot of basketball, he's not going to go out of his way to watch the Charlotte Hornets when they're 19-63. He's not going to do that. But if the Charlotte Hornets are competitive and they start making a playoff run, you best believe that he's going to be like, hey, this is my hometown. I'm going to go out of my way and support him whether I know much about him or not. And I think what we've kind of seen as a way for some of these smaller places to compete, when obviously the big stars are going to want to play in the big cities, the small teams have gotten so good at drafting and rebuilding their teams, and especially putting together young pieces to all develop and grow together. The Oklahoma City Thunder are one of the best success stories when it comes to a rebuild. They had Kevin Durant, Westbrook, Paul George. They somehow came out of it getting rid of Westbrook and Paul George, and now they have their core for the future just from those deals. And while the NBA is definitely a place where the money and location matters, the formula that the small teams have figured out of how to build a championship competitive roster through powers of drafting and trading and giving their team lots of time to rebuild, lots of time to work with and build up chemistry together is something that we will continue to see for many, many years. When we look at a team like the Indiana Pacers, who have been, again, one of the most exciting things in basketball this whole year, and you look at where all of their players came from, they drafted guys like Miles Turner, Benedict Mathurin, Andrew Nembhard, but they also were able to use trades to further fuel into their rebuild. They picked up guys like Aaron Nesmith from Boston, Pascal Siakam from Toronto, and obviously most importantly, they got Tyrese Halliburton from Sacramento using the Domantas Sabonis trade. The Indiana Pacers have been playing absolutely incredible basketball. I mean, they just took down the Cleveland Cavaliers in 5 games. Are you serious? Going into that series, they know that they are there for one thing and one thing only, and that is to win. They are there to put their hearts out in the court. They will out hustle you, outrun you, outplay you, and they will wear you down, that by the end of the game, their guys know they have nothing to lose. And we saw throughout this playoffs that they were down 20 points, but they have the heart of a champion. As Rudy Tomjanovich once said, never underestimate the heart of a champion. You see it in the Oklahoma City Thunder. At first, we weren't sure if they had what it took. They went into the Nuggets series. They went down 2-1. And at the end of game 3, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was seen smiling when people from the crowd were taunting him. And as he said after the game, it's easy to taunt when you're winning. Anyone can do that. You know what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did? Well, after he was seen smiling for the next 4 games of the series, in which the Thunder would take 3 of them, he would average stats of 31, 4.5, and 6, along with 2 steals and a block, shooting 56% from the field and almost 38% from three. And my goodness, as we saw, the dude was clearly unfazed. It reminds me so much of Luka Doncic saying everybody talk tough when they up. And the Thunder went out never having played a game 7 with each other as a group, and they won by 32 points. How ridiculous is that? Against a team that obviously had championship pedigree experience, game 7 experience, the Thunder went out and finally proved to the world that they belong here. I know, as we've mentioned before, parity has been one of the biggest things that has been happening in today's NBA, and I think this is a huge result directly tied with helping out the small market teams and balancing the league for everyone. The good thing is now we see several teams make incredible jumps over seasons. We saw the Cleveland Cavaliers jump up and become the best record team in the Eastern Conference. We saw the Pacers make back-to-back conference finals runs, including this year a potential finals run. We saw Detroit go from being the laughingstock of the league last year to making the playoffs and being competitive with the Knicks. You have Milwaukee that's been very good for several seasons now. That's just in the Eastern Conference. We've also seen that we hear the phrase money doesn't buy happiness. Well, it kind of works in the NBA that way too. The Phoenix Suns were the highest spending team in the NBA this year with $220 million. Guys like Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant are all a huge part of that. Mostly Bradley Beal's bad contract. Their team didn't even make the play-in. But because of all the parity in today's league, I think it also pushes for a lot of diehard fans from a lot of different places. The Denver Nuggets, the Milwaukee Bucks, and formerly the Dallas Mavericks, the San Antonio Spurs, and even the Oklahoma City Thunder, their superstar level player is from a different country. They're able to not only boost the market locally, but they're able to grab fans from overseas that now they have another fan base supporting them from afar. But as we've seen, the NBA also could do a lot better of a job with the marketing aspect. You look at one of the biggest counterparts being the NFL. When they have a small market team such as the Kansas City Chiefs, they were pushed into superstardom. They're pushing out the entire team's success rather than just focusing on Mahomes. On the NBA side, you only get to hear about the superstar player. That's one of the big issues, is that the NBA needs to find a middle ground so that way they can market both teams and players to further push fandom into some of these small places. In order for the league to pull in clicks, they're still going to have to make sure that stars are playing each other in the playoffs. The Thunder versus Timberwolves, while those two viewer bases may not be huge, they do have two of the top players in the NBA. So just the star matchup alone can help push the TV ratings for them a little bit. And that's why it is so important, in my opinion, that when you see the little guys standing tall, facing their biggest challenges, it is so important to root for them and cheer for them and understand what they go through, not always being under the bright spotlight. And for some of these guys, it's an even harder adjustment, as they might not see very much spotlight at all throughout the regular season. So when they get to the biggest stage, it's pretty much boom or bust. Overall, the state of parity in today's league has been incredible, and what we see in the playoffs now is that we're finally able to see a great even balance, and we see so many of these great little teams knocking out the top dogs. We've seen so many upsets just from teams who want it more. You have teams who think they deserve to be there, and then you have the teams who earn their right and belong there. So especially to the Indiana Pacers and Oklahoma City Thunder, I want both of these teams to continue their incredible runs, as well as the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are in a little bit bigger of a city, but their actual viewership base isn't as big yet because they're still tapping into it by trying to be as successful as possible. Make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I appreciate it very much. And as always, I will see you next time, cuh.